Our previous video was a timeline for the life of Stolas, a sort of part 1 to this video, which will be a detailed outline of the life of Blitz. Today, Blitz is the big boss over at IMP, the Immediate Murder Professionals, a group of 3 imps and their hellhound who sneak up to Earth to kill humans on behalf of other humans who have died and gone to hell. The earliest we see of Blitz's life, however, wasn't until Season 2, Episode 1, which was largely flashbacks about Stolas and Blitz as children. From these flashbacks, we learn that 26 years ago, Blitz was a child working at his family circus owned by his father, Cash Buckso. Now, we don't have an exact timeline or even know exactly what year it is in Hell in the show, but with Season 2, Episode 1 airing in 2022, it's pretty easy to get a rough timeline by working backwards from there. In Episode 7 of Season 1, which takes place on the same night as Episode 1 of Season 2, we learn that Moxie and Millie have been married for just about a year, making it about a year since Blitz first started seeing Stolas as adults. If it is roughly 2022 in the show, then that means that these flashbacks take place 26 years in the past, roughly 1996 in Hell's calendar. From signs around Imp City, we know it to have been established in 1981, meaning Blitz was born sometime after Imp City had been constructed, but that his family was part of the first wave of imps that would have really brought Imp City to life. Stolas then was also born sometime after Imp City's construction. However, it seems that the two events are somewhat related, with Imp City being a territory built with a palace marked for Paimon that would eventually be rebranded with Stolas' seal in the present. Cash Buckso would employ his family at the circus, but would also open it up to other families and imps as well. From his own family, Barbie Wire would seem to find a lot of success based on Vraska's comment about her no longer being famous in Season 1, Episode 3, but the big star came from outside of Buckso's family, Fizzaroli. Even as a kid, Fizzaroli just had a mass appeal that audiences loved. Blitz not only had a hard time keeping up with Fizz in this way, but the perfect performance of Fizz made it even more clear just how bad and uncoordinated Blitz's own act was. On his own, audiences may have at least laughed at Blitz's performance for being so bad, but seeing the perfect performance of Fizzaroli can make that kind of act lose its charm and appeal. Despite being shown up by Fizzaroli and really everyone, Blitz would still appreciate and love his circus family, perhaps everyone but his father. It's hard to say just how twisted Blitz and Buckso's relationship might have been, as this episode may have only been scratching the surface of it. In the flashbacks, we see that Buckso has no problem selling Blitz to the Goetia for a day, and while there, has Blitz risk his life to steal as much of their expensive goods as he can. This seems to be the first time Buckso made Blitz do something like this, but I doubt it was the last time that it happened. In flashbacks, we haven't seen Blitz's sister or his mother, but in this episode, Buckso uses them as a sort of threat against Blitz, saying Blitz would help rob the Goetia if he really loved them. Now, in Hell, there is a huge overlap between sexual-focused industries and the general entertainment industry. The joke of Hazbin Hotel is that Angel Dust isn't just an adult film star, but he's supposed to be one of the most famous entertainment figures in all of Hell because of it. With that in mind, even outside of adult films, the biggest pop star we know in Hell is also a succubus who performs in much the same way that other succubus do at nightclubs. Fizzaroli is perhaps even more famous than Angel Dust at this point, considering his robot love dolls that are all over Hell. With that in mind, it's not much of a stretch to think that Buckso's family circus probably overlapped with some escorting, a pattern Blitz got used to at a young age with the way he was able to be simply rented by Paimon for the day. Blitz, as an adult, seems to have experienced a pattern of royals and more elite demons taking advantage of him, making him insist that Stolas couldn't be any different, as Blitz sees them all the same way for some reason. It's possible that he had something of a relationship with another royal in the past through this sort of escorting service at the circus, perhaps making it impossible for him to take Stolas too seriously. Now, according to Blitz, he and Fizzaroli have only crossed paths twice in the last 15 years, making the accident roughly 15 years before the present and 14 years before the start of the show. That would mean it happened just roughly 9 to 10 years after the events of Stolas' childhood birthday where he and Blitz met. We don't really know Blitz's age as a child, but this seems to give us just enough time for Blitz, Fizz, and Barbie Wire to become roughly young adults, give or take, and keeping in mind imps age close to humans, but not exactly the same. Now, as kids, Fizz and Blitz were great friends, but Fizz admitted in Season 2, Episode 6 that he felt that Blitz was always jealous of his success. From Fizz's point of view, Blitz was upset that his father, Buckso, had given Fizz a birthday card that said that Buckso wished that Fizz was his son. This looked like it upset Blitz so much that he purposely lit the tent on fire. From there, Fizz would find himself with a face full of fireworks when everyone is frantically scrambling around and they go off in his face. His skin burns white, his horns are destroyed, and his limbs are mangled, and from his perspective, Blitz turns away and leaves him there to die instead of trying to help him. However, Blitz was able to reveal to Fizz in this episode that things were more complicated than that. Blitz clearly had some jealousy, but he also had strong feelings for the people in his life, whether it's his family or Fizz himself, who Blitz saw not just as his best friend, but someone he loved. That night, he had a love letter signed for Fizz's eyes only that he was going to give him, but seeing his own father give Fizz that card wishing Fizz was his son made Blitz feel like a failure. He didn't start the fire on purpose, but instead pushed an imp carrying a birthday cake out of the way, and the fire from the candles ended up lighting the tent on fire. From there, everything was a tragic accident, still Blitz's fault, but not anything he intended at least. While it looked like Blitz just ignored Fizz when Fizz needed help, there was a lot going on after the explosions and fire, and Blitz had his own injuries as well. We can see the beginnings of a dark mark on his face that would eventually become his white scar, and his eye is so hurt that he's covering it here. Now in the actual episode, it's a bit ambiguous on why Blitz was running away, but his mouth looks like he's saying the word mom. Of course, at the end of this scene, we also see a photo of Blitz, his sister, and his mother, with a fire starting where his mother is, implying that she died in the fire that night as well. This all seems to be confirmed by the leak animatic, which showed Blitz looking over to see his sister, Barbie Wire, and a speech bubble confirming the word he mouthed was mom. Following the accident, Blitz would lose more than just his mom, however. Fizz and Blitz would be separated, presumably when Fizz was in the hospital, and Fizz would never be told that Blitz tried to reach out to see him. And in fact, Fizz would be told by whoever was taking care of him that Blitz didn't want to see him. From here, Blitz would over-invest in his relationship with his sister, but that seemed to go horribly wrong. While he thought they might get closer after losing everything, Barbie seemed to be dealing with her pain through the use of addictive substances, which eventually led her to rehab where Blitz could no longer pressure her into being there for him. While she likely wants to forgive Blitz, she can't just be in his life the way they were as kids after what he's done, even if it was an accident. It's just too much to pretend to be normal around. For a short while, Blitz would try to make a career as an entertainer, getting a job at the Greed Ring's Lululand, but here he would still find himself shown up by Fizz. At this point, Fizz would have become famous with his love robots, and Blitz would find himself being a supporting act to none other than RoboFizz, who everyone still loved more than him. It's interesting that in this scene, Blitz's makeup is covering his face, and the light is hitting it in such a way that I originally believed this scene happened before he got his scar, but we can now definitely say that this scene takes place after he got his scar and the paint is just hiding it. At some point, Blitz would either quit or even get fired from his job at Lululand, and transition into more physical and violent labor that imps are typically known for. The most we know of this is Blitz working as a bodyguard for Veronica, where he was also her boyfriend. While she seems to have genuine feelings for him, what with the tattoo of his name on her, and how hurt she was by the way he abandoned her, Blitz probably felt like he wasn't appreciated in the way he wanted, and would eventually steal her keys and credit cards to go get horseback riding lessons in Wrath. It is in this time that Blitz worked with Veronica that I imagine Blitz did the rounds at various parties where he would develop his reputation, such as we saw at the Hellhound party where certain partygoers recognized him. After Veronica, Blitz would get in his head that he should start his own business, and part of that plan seemed to be adopting Luna. It's hard to say what Blitz's original intentions were with her, as he said he needed a hellhound that was family friendly, and I took this to mean that he wanted a hellhound who was more of a worker than a child, but when he saw how hurt Luna was in this pound, he decided that he wanted to be a real dad that day. They would move in together where Luna gets the only bedroom in their one-bedroom apartment, and Blitz would take the couch. At some point after this, Blitz would meet Moxie when they both end up in a Greed Ring prison, for reasons that were never really explained. Moxie would later be seen in a photo holding up Blitz's business license, and Moxie said that he really helped Blitz set up the business. But I think it's possible that Blitz was trying to start his business before this, just more illegally. I'd like to think he was in this jail cell with Moxie because he was trying to steal some sort of object that he could teleport to Earth with. While this is the Greed Ring he's in, I think he may have ended up here because he tried to rob a succubus of their Osmodian jewel, or perhaps some other species that got it on the black market. Following this and their granting of their business license, Blitz would end up needing to steal the grimoire from Stolas. This would be the first time that they saw each other in 25 years, and Blitz would end up having to seduce Stolas to get it. One of my favorite things about Blitz's character is that he could have just tied Stolas up and walked away with the grimoire, but something about Stolas' neediness just made Blitz go back and give Stolas the night of his life. He's a complex character, as this timeline clearly illustrates, and it says so much about the parts of him that tries to be a good person, even when he sees himself as a generally pretty messed up person. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.